Hi, my name is Amaury Cooper. I am Deputy Director of Risk Management and Global Security with International Relief and Development, and also Secretary and Board Member for the International NGO Safety and Security Association. I am responding to, or my questions or answers are for the Syrian Refugee Crisis and the Syrian civil war that's happening. I think the two biggest challenges to the Syrian civil war and the crisis that's happening as a result are how to balance the huge influx of refugees that are leaving Syria for countries like Jordan, Lebanon, Turkey, and Iraq, and to ensuring that those refugees don't put too much of a strain on already limited resources in those countries. And then likewise also how children are being affected by that, and ensuring that they can lead the normal lives that they had before by getting an education and being able to play and eventually hopefully go back to their homes and continue the life that they left behind. I think in practical terms, those that manage to make it out of Syria are making the best of it by trying to lead normal lives. For instance, at the Zaatri refugee camp, which is in Jordan on the border with Syria, where IRD does a lot of its work, the Syrians have managed to pick up where they left off. People who made bread back in Syria have started opening shops and make bread at the camp. And those who did other services provide other services at the camp as well. So they've kind of started developing an infrastructure and an economy within the camps. Emotionally, I mean, you can literally see the border with Syria. So it must be very hard to wake up every day and be reminded of the homes and lives you left behind. The trauma many have had and continue to go through as they make their way out of the country to the safe havens never seems to end, as those memories are reinforced by the news they hear every day from the flood of incoming refugees. On some days, Zaatri sees like 1,000 new people arrive at its gates. That in itself can't be reassuring, as it means the conflict is still going on strong, and making them less likely to return home anytime soon. There continues to be a rise in the number of humanitarian aid and development workers that are injured or killed, and that's not likely to end as the aid workers are increasingly operating in more complex, hostile environments. As such, I think donors and implementing organizations need to prioritize the safety and security and training of safety and security for their staff, so that they can continue to work more effectively and confidently, and allowing them to focus on those they seek to help rather than whether or not they're going to make it through another day. So I think that a lot of that focus down the road is going to be on making sure that these aid workers and development workers have proper training and adequate resources when it comes to safety and security. When you leave the Jordanian capital of Amman, you could be in any major city in the U.S. You pass by McDonald's, KFC, Hilton, Sheraton. It's phenomenal. The roads are in great shape, and you make this 2-hour drive out of the city through the most peaceful and serene desert. It's like a moonscape. It's just really, there's no traffic, nothing. I mean, the roads are just incredible. They're, like I said, way better than DC, which is just full of potholes. Then out of nowhere, you arrive at the main gates of the Zaatri camp, and of course, security is pretty tight, but it's not overwhelming. And then, at first, it doesn't seem that bad. A few few rows of tents and some hardened structures like offices made out of containers. But then then I got out of the car and started walking and found myself at the actual gates to the camp. And it's after I passed those gates, started walking and walking and walking and seeing row after row after row of these tents, and like in every direction as far as the eye could see. And they all had they were all housing families with multiple generations in them. I mean, that's when it really hit me, the magnitude of what was happening. I mean, the fact that these people in the tens of thousands had been uprooted from their lives, left their homes, possessions, and loved ones, like, to live in a makeshift tent city that was created as a temporary solution to house 50 to 60,000 people, and now had surpassed 100,000. They were there with nowhere else to go. Meanwhile, in a few hours, I would make my way back to Amman, and McDonald's if I wanted it, and take a nice hot shower, and eventually go back home to Washington. And that's when it really struck me as how horrific this situation was for them, and how lucky I was, and more importantly, like, what could I do or continue to do to make sure that those people didn't suffer, or at least their suffering was limited, and they could return home to do what their normal lives, what they wanted to do. Well, I guess, I'm not a doctor, so I don't treat, the sick, and I don't inoculate kids, and I'm not an engineer, so I don't dig wells or build bridges. As a security manager, my role is to ensure that my organization staff, and to a large extent our beneficiaries, those we help, are able to work safely, effectively, and without fear. So, to that effect, we don't make the headlines like our colleagues who are doctors and engineers. So no, I don't know that my role has changed the way I look at or at least this disaster hasn't changed the way I look at my role in this field or as a disaster responder. It just reinforced my commitment to the work that I do, and certainly it's made me want to do it better, and to ensure that those people can actually do what they need to do, the doctors, the engineers, so that they can limit the suffering of those who are affected by this disaster, or any disaster for that matter. I don't think that it's changed the way I think aid work should be conducted. It has made me realize that as aid workers, we have to be flexible and, above all, adaptable. We have to be constantly learning and learn from our mistakes and our successes, and never adopt cookie-cutter solutions or strategies to the problems we face in the field. Most importantly, it's solidified my belief that efficiency and innovation are the keys to proper program implementation and certainly resilience. And by that I mean we need to utilize whatever tools are available to us, and most importantly, see how those tools can be used for other purposes. So in that way, I think it's really solidified my belief that we have to be MacGyver type people, and aid work is very much a MacGyver mentality, and that should be encouraged and even taught to some degree. DisasterReady.org is exactly the type of tool I'm referring to in my last point. Here's this ready-made, easy-to-access platform that allows staff both at headquarters and also in some of the most remote, hostile field sites on the planet to not only learn new skills, but more importantly, share their organization's best practices, and allow them to apply and adapt those best practices to their own environments and own disaster response capabilities. I mean, because it's online, those materials are available for any time and can be updated quickly, which can allow aid workers and development workers to access those lessons learned in disasters, on one side of the planet, somewhere in Africa, one day, and then to a new disaster in South America that happens the next. For instance, and applying the lessons learned from an earthquake that happened in Japan and the resulting tsunami, to earthquakes that happened a few days later in a place like South America, in Chile or Argentina. I mean, these are really important, and that online platform allows that flexibility so that people can get the information they need and hopefully put it to good use.